Who is George Goldie, the man that sold Nigeria in 1899? Now, while we are busy fighting against ourselves in Africa, in West Africa, a white man actually came to us, to West Africa, came to Nigeria, sold Nigeria to his brothers. A white man came to you, sold your country, sold your territory to his own brothers. This is crazy. This is crazy. Now, listen. George Dashwood Toban Goldie is a British, born in 1846. Now, he attended the military academy. He was also a lieutenant before he resigned and went to scramble for African resource. Okay, because you know when they visit Africa, they tell us they are explorers, they are this, they are that. Meanwhile, they are exploiters. They came to exploit us. But when we go to them, it becomes illegal migrants, okay? But when they come to us, it becomes explorers, okay? Now, he saw opportunities in Africa. So he resigned from the military and came to Africa. Now, his first contact with the Egyptians and the Sudan, he established his first company in 1876. And he called it the Central Africa Trade Company in 1876. Now, after that, he moved down to where we call West Africa today. So when he got to West Africa, that was in 1877, he now saw opportunities. He now saw a lot of opportunities. And before he arrived, there were a lot of British firms scrambling, scavenging for African resource. The French was also there. Now, when he came in, he now had a thought, he now had an idea. He thought of uniting all these British firms, bringing them together in order to fight the influence of the French in that region. He did that in 1879. He established United African Company, UAC. So he brought those firms, those British firms together. His name is George Goldie. He brought those firms together in 1879. Now, don't forget that the French were there. They were operating as well. Now, in 1881, he bought off those French firms. He gave them money. He settled them. They left. He now took control of what you know today as Nigeria. He took control. Now, in that 1881, he wrote to the Crown of England for them to give him royal charter to hand over the right to him. They denied him that. Okay. Now, he continued his operation within the Niger, within the Axis that you know today as Nigeria. Okay. Now, in 1884 and 1885, that was when the Berlin Conference came on that separated Africa. Okay. That was when it came on, 1884 to 1885. So after the Berlin Conference of 1885, that territory controlled by George Goldie was handed over to the British. Don't forget that George Goldie is a British. That territory was handed over to the British. So it was now under the control of George Goldie. So the right in 1886, the right was handed over by the Crown, by the England Crown, to George Goldie. The right of operation and everything was handed over to him. The charter, the royal charter was handed over to him. So he began operation. Okay, now in 1886, the company that was known as United African Company was later changed to National African Company. And in 1886, after he secured the royal charter, the name was changed to Royal Niger Company. The name was changed to Royal Niger Company. Now, in 1887, after 1886, in 1887, The British, because of his effort, his contribution, the British knighted him. They gave him this Catholic, you know about it, knight. He now became a knight. So that is why those of you that are religious, when people tell you that religion is a tool of colonialism, don't argue it, don't doubt it. Okay, they knighted him because of his effort. Okay, because he was very useful to the British. Okay, now the operations of the Royal Niger Company include both political and economic. Okay, that is to say, they were in charge of trade. They were regulating and controlling trade. Okay, and as of that time, it was palm oil, it was palm fruit. Okay, it was palm fruit. Most of you don't know that Malaysia actually came to Nigeria, to the old eastern region, to take this palm fruit that they are producing today and doing their things. They actually came to the old eastern region of Nigeria to take the palm fruit. Okay, now it was palm fruit. It was very massive over there. It was plenty. It was in abundance over there. Okay, right from Ibibio, Ungwa, Ishikiri, where you know today as Delta, because Delta is a people that stays around the shores of the sea or the river. Okay, that is Delta. Okay, that is not their names. Those names were changed. Their old name, their ancient names were changed. Where you have today as Port Harcourt, which was formerly Iguacha. Port Harcourt is named after Louis Harcourt. Okay, a white man as well, okay, and those territories. Now, Judge Goldie continued his operation, including trade regulation, and so they were exporting palm oil to Europe and all that. These things were going on. They were also in charge of tax. They were taxing people, okay? They were taxing people. These were their works. They were also administering to their territories and all that. So it was a full and functional government. Okay, they had their Royal Niger Navy. Okay, it was just a government of its own. Those territories were controlled by the British through Goldie. Okay, or let's say Royal Niger Company that is owned by Goldie or that is being controlled by Goldie. Goldie was the Governor General. He was the governor of the Royal Niger Company. Okay, so these things was going on. These things was going on. The operations of the Royal Niger Company was ongoing. It kept going on until there were resistance from the Easterners. You know, Frederick Lugard told you that the Easterners are rebels. Okay? A lot of people, like the likes of King Jaja of Opobo, rebelled against them, against the Royal Niger Company. The likes of King Koko Nengi of Bonny Island, I will talk about him, they rebelled against the Royal Niger Company. Okay? So their activities, their operations and all that went down. Okay, so there was need for the British to come into the picture and administer it themselves with their own hands. So that was why Judge Goldie sold Nigeria to the British in 1899 for £865,000. Now, the British government, the Queen, the Crown, now took control of those areas and those territories that were controlled by the Royal Niger Company. That was how it went. Don't forget that their activities include processing palm fruits and all that, and its produce and so. Okay, that was how it was going. Now, until it was sold to the British. I told you that Queen Victoria was the one who signed for it. She was the one who bought it from Judge Goldie. Okay, now the British started administering directly to the area you have today as Nigeria. Now, as a result of their operations from 1900 down, then in 1914, there was an amalgamation. That is to say, the territories or the colonies that were controlled by the Royal Niger Company or Goldie was now brought together. They were now merged together. They now brought them together and called them Nigeria in 1914. That is how the name Nigeria came about. Okay, under Frederick Lugard. The name was suggested by the mistress, Flora Shaw. So they now brought all those territories that were being administered, that were having their governors and all that. They now merged all of them together. The North and the Southern Protectorate, they now brought them together, merged them and called them Nigeria. I'll continue with this topic.